Captain Veltar stood on the bridge of the Stellar Dominion and watched the stars. His four eyes moved across the control panels as his crew worked around him. The Zephyrian fleet had been traveling for 3 months, looking for new worlds to add to their empire. They had already taken control of 17 star systems. Each time it had been easy. The aliens they found were weak and had poor weapons. "Captain," called out Science Officer Morden from his station, "we are picking up something strange on our sensors." Veltar turned his large head toward the science station. His blue skin showed the marks of his rank, and his long arms moved with the grace of someone who had commanded ships for many years. "What kind of strange?" "A ship, sir. A very large ship. It appears to be drifting without power at the edge of this star system." Morden's tentacles moved quickly over his controls. "The size readings are unusual." "Show me," Veltar ordered. The main screen changed to show a dark shape against the stars. Even from this distance, it was clear the ship was massive. Veltar had seen many alien vessels in his time as a fleet commander, but nothing like this. The ship was long and wide, with a design that looked both brutal and purposeful. "How big is it?" asked Commander Kesri from her position near the weapons controls. Morden checked his readings twice before answering. "It is approximately 3 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide. That makes it 3 times larger than our biggest dreadnought." A quiet sound went through the bridge crew. Ships that size were rare in the galaxy. Most species did not have the technology or resources to build something so huge. "Any energy readings?" Veltar asked. "None, sir. The ship appears to be completely dead. No power, no life support, no engines. It is just drifting." Veltar moved closer to the main screen. The ship's design was unlike anything in their databases. It had thick armor plating that covered the entire hull. Strange bumps and towers stuck out from various points along its length. Even dead, it looked dangerous. "What do we know about this area of space?" he asked. "According to our star charts, this system is on the edge of unexplored space," answered Navigation Officer Telwyn. "We have no records of any intelligent species living here." "Then this ship came from somewhere else," Kesri said. "Perhaps from deeper in this region." Veltar nodded slowly. In his 40 years of space travel, he had learned that finding new technology often meant finding new worlds to conquer. A ship this size suggested an advanced civilization. If they were advanced but their ship was dead, it might mean they were also weak. "Take us closer," he ordered, "but keep our weapons ready." The Stellar Dominion moved forward, and the rest of the Zephyrian fleet followed. They had 5 heavy cruisers in total, each one armed with the best weapons their empire could build. Veltar felt confident that they could handle any threat. As they got closer, more details of the strange ship became clear. The hull was covered in layers of different materials. Some sections looked like they were designed to absorb impacts. Other areas had what looked like reactive armor that could explode outward to stop incoming weapons. The ship had been built by someone who expected to be shot at. "I am seeing weapon ports all along the hull," reported Weapons Officer Jendal. "Many weapon ports." "How many?" Veltar asked. Jendal was quiet for a long moment as he counted. "At least 200 visible gun positions, sir, and that is just on the side we can see." The bridge became very quiet. 200 weapons on one. Ship was more firepower than their entire fleet carried. "Are you certain the ship is dead?" Veltar asked Morden. "Yes, sir. No energy readings at all. Whatever happened to this ship, it has been without power for some time." Veltar made his decision. "We will board the ship and claim it as salvage. A vessel this size could give us technology we have never seen before." "Sir," Kesri said carefully, "perhaps we should scan the ship first. A full deep scan to learn more about its systems before we risk sending people aboard." Veltar thought about this. Kesri was right to be careful. They knew nothing about this ship or the species that built it. A scan would tell them about the ship's weapons, its armor, and its technology. It would also tell them if there were any traps or dangers waiting inside. "Very well," he decided. "Morden, begin a full structural scan. I want to know everything about this ship before we set foot on it." "Yes, sir. Beginning deep scan now." Morden's tentacles moved over his controls, and the stellar dominion's most powerful sensors came to life. Energy beams reached out toward the dark ship, ready to look through its hull and reveal all its secrets. Veltar watched the scanning process begin and felt satisfied with his caution. In a few minutes, they would know everything about this mysterious vessel. They would learn about its weapons, its defenses, and its technology. Most importantly, they would confirm that it was truly dead and safe to board. The captain had no way of knowing that this single decision would change everything. He did not know that the ship's computers were designed to detect scanning attempts. He could not have guessed that deep scans would trigger automated systems that had been sleeping for months. Most of all, Veltar had no idea that he was about to learn why no one in the galaxy scanned human warships without permission. The scan continued, and on the dark ship lights began to flicker. The scanning beams reached deep into the human ship, and the results began appearing on Morden's screens. At first he thought his equipment was broken. The readings made no sense. "Captain," he called out, his voice filled with confusion. "I am getting very strange results from the scan." Veltar walked over to the science station. "What kind of strange?" "The ship's structure is impossible, sir. Look at this." Morden pointed to his main display. The hull is not just thick armor. It has 17 different layers. Each layer is made from different materials. The display showed a cross-section of the ship's hull. The outer layer was some kind of metal that could absorb energy weapons. Under that was reactive armor that would explode to stop physical projectiles. Below that were more layers of ceramic composites, ablative materials, and metals they could not identify. "How thick is the total armor?" Veltar asked. "At the thinnest point it is 12 meters thick. At the thickest sections it reaches 30 meters. Commander Kesri joined them at the science station. 30 meters of armor? That is thicker than our entire ship." But Morden was not finished. "Sir, that is just the beginning. Look at the internal structure." The scan revealed something that defied everything the Zephyrians knew about shipbuilding. Inside the massive vessel were 17 separate power cores. Each core was large enough to power their entire fleet. The ship also had 43 different life support systems spread throughout its length. "Why would they need so many power sources?" Kesri asked. "Redundancy," answered Chief Engineer Volkus, who had come to the bridge to see the scan results. "If 16 power cores are destroyed, the ship can still fight with the 17th one." Veltar studied the display with growing unease. "What about weapons?" Morden switched to the weapons scan and the bridge fell silent. The human ship carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The weapon systems were arranged in layers throughout the ship. The outer weapons were massive railguns that could fire metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Behind those were missile tubes that could launch nuclear warheads. "How many missiles does it carry?" Veltar asked quietly. "The computer estimates over 2,000 nuclear missiles, sir. Each warhead appears to be in the 50 megaton range." "Weapons officer." Jendal made a choking sound. 50 megatons? Our biggest warheads are only 5 megatons. "There is more," Morden continued. "The ship has energy weapons that connect directly to the main power cores. The computer calculates they could punch through our shields and armor in a single shot." The scan continued to reveal more horrors. The ammunition storage areas were larger than most space stations. The ship carried enough supplies to fight continuously for months without resupply. Every critical system had backups, and every backup had its own backup system. "Look at this," Volkus said, pointing to another section of the scan. "The engineering sections are designed so that damage to one area cannot spread to others. The ship has blast doors every 50 meters. Even if half the ship was destroyed, the other half could keep fighting." Veltar felt his confidence draining. Away with each new discovery. This was not just a warship. This was a vessel designed by a species that expected to fight against impossible odds and still win. "What about the crew areas?" he asked. Morden brought up the crew sections, and what they saw was even more disturbing. The living quarters were small and basic. There were no luxury items, no entertainment areas, no comfortable spaces. Everything was designed for function, not comfort. "The medical bay is Unusual, Mordun reported. It contains surgical equipment I have never seen before. The computer identifies tools for battlefield amputations, emergency organ replacement, and something called combat trauma surgery. They expect their crew to be wounded in battle, Kesri said with horror. Not just wounded, Volkas corrected. They expect their crew to lose arms and legs and keep fighting. The scan revealed more disturbing details. The crew quarters had personal armor storage and weapon lockers. Even the ship's kitchen staff had access to military-grade firearms. The entire vessel was designed around the idea that every person aboard was a soldier first. "Captain," Mordun said, his voice very quiet, "I found something else. The ship's computer contains tactical databases." "What kind of tactics?" "Over 10,000 different combat scenarios. Most of them involve fighting against superior numbers or superior technology. There are detailed plans for something called last stand protocols and mutually assured destruction scenarios." Veltar stared at the scan results. This ship represented a level of military thinking that was completely alien to the Zephyrians. His people conquered weaker species through technological superiority and overwhelming force. But these humans had clearly spent enormous amounts of time and resources preparing to fight enemies that were stronger than themselves. "Sir," Communications Officer Rendall called from across the bridge. "I am detecting something new from the human ship." "What kind of something?" "Very faint power." "Signatures, sir. Deep inside the ship's core sections." Mordun quickly adjusted his scans to focus on the areas Rendall had detected. What he found made his blood turn cold. "Captain, the ship is not dead. There are life signs aboard." "How many?" Veltar demanded. "I am reading approximately 3,000 life forms, sir. Most of them appear to be in some kind of suspended animation, but there are also about 50 life signs that show normal activity." The bridge crew looked at each other with growing fear. They had been scanning an active warship filled with sleeping warriors, and now power signatures were beginning to appear throughout the vessel. "Sir," Rendall reported, his voice shaking, "the human ship is powering up." As the human ship's power systems came online, Mordun's scanners began picking up data transmissions from the vessel's computer networks. The Zephyrian translation systems worked quickly to decode the information, and what they found made everyone on the bridge wish they had never discovered this ship. "Captain," Mordun said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I am accessing their crew database." "How many crew members?" Veltar asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know the answer. 2,847 beings aboard. The computer identifies them as humans." Mordun paused as more data appeared on his screen. "Sir, I think you need to see their service records." The main display changed to show personnel files. The first record belonged to the ship's cook, a human named James Rodriguez. According to the file, Rodriguez had served in 3 different wars before joining the crew of this ship. He had fought in something called the Martian Rebellion, the Europa mining conflict, and the Belt Wars. "Their cook is a combat veteran," Kesri said in disbelief. "Look at the next one," Mordun urged. The display showed an engineer named Lisa Park. Her record showed service in 5 different military campaigns, including specialized training in explosive ordnance disposal and battlefield repair of damaged ships. She had been wounded in combat 4 times and had received medals for bravery under fire. "Even their engineers are warriors," Volkas muttered. Veltar watched as more records appeared on the screen. Every single crew member had a military background. The ship's medical officer had served as a battlefield surgeon in 7 different conflicts. The junior communications technicians had fought in space battles. Even the maintenance crew had combat experience. "Show me the captain's record," Veltar ordered. The file that appeared made the bridge fall completely silent. Captain Sarah Chen had 47 years of continuous military service. She had commanded ships in 12 different wars and had never lost a single engagement. Her record showed participation in over 300 combat missions, including something called suicide runs and impossible odds scenarios. "She has been fighting for 47 years, Kesri said. "That is longer than most of our people live." But the worst part was not the length of her service. It was the psychological evaluation attached to her file. The human military had tested all their personnel for something they called stress tolerance and adaptive combat response. Captain Chen had scored in the highest possible category for both tests. "What does this mean?" Veltar asked, pointing to a section of the evaluation. Morden read the translation carefully. It says she shows exceptional ability to remain calm under extreme pressure and can quickly develop new tactics when facing unknown enemies. The evaluation also notes something called aggressive creativity in combat situations. More personnel files flowed across the screen. The pattern was the same for every crew member. These humans had spent their entire lives learning how to fight and kill. But more disturbing than their individual records was what the ship's computer revealed about their species as a whole. "Captain," Morden said, his tentacles trembling as he worked his controls, "I am accessing their historical database. The humans have been at war for their entire recorded history." "With other species?" Veltar asked. "No, sir. With themselves." The database revealed a species that had spent thousands of years fighting constant wars on their home planet. They had developed increasingly deadly weapons and tactics through centuries of conflict. When they finally reached space, they had continued fighting each other across multiple worlds and asteroid colonies. "Look at this," Morden said, highlighting a section of the historical data. "In the last 300 years alone, they have fought over 50 major space conflicts. The Belt Wars lasted 30 years. The Martian Rebellion lasted 15. The Europa mining conflict involved over 2 million casualties." "They fight their own kind?" Kesri asked. "Constantly. According to this database, the longest period of peace in human space was only 18 months. They have fought over resources, territory, political differences, and sometimes just because they were bored." Volka studied the technical specifications that accompanied the historical data. "This explains their ship design. They build their vessels to fight other humans who know all their weaknesses and tactics." The database revealed more disturbing information. The humans had developed combat doctrines based on fighting enemies who were smarter, better armed, or more numerous than themselves. They had created military academies that taught officers how to win battles they should lose. They had written manuals on fighting hopeless campaigns and surviving impossible situations. "Sir," Morden said, his voice filled with dread, "I found their ship classification system." "What about it?" "This vessel, this massive warship with enough firepower to destroy our entire fleet, is classified as a light cruiser." The bridge became very quiet. If this monster ship was considered light, what did their heavy warships look like? "There is more," Morden continued. "The database shows they have vessels classified as battleships, dreadnoughts, and something called fortress ships. Each category is significantly larger and more heavily armed than the last." Veltar felt sick. His fleet of 5 heavy cruisers had seemed powerful when they began this journey. They had conquered 17 star systems with these ships. But now he realized they would not last 5 minutes against a single human light cruiser. "What kind of species builds ships like this?" Kesri asked. The answer came from the human database itself. In the section labeled Species Overview, the computer had recorded the observations of human military analysts about their own kind. The translation was simple and terrifying. "Humans are persistence predators who have evolved to hunt prey that is faster, stronger, and more dangerous than themselves. When applied to warfare, this means humans will continue fighting long after any rational species would surrender." "Sir," Communications Officer Rendall called out suddenly, "I am receiving a transmission from the human ship." "What does it say?" "Unknown. Vessels, you are in violation of human space. Identify yourselves immediately or you will be considered hostile." Veltar looked at his crew. They had awakened something that should have been left sleeping. Now they had to face the consequences of their curiosity. The human transmission repeated across all frequencies, each time more demanding than the last. Veltar watched as his bridge crew looked at him with growing fear. They all understood that they had made a terrible mistake. "Sir," Weapons Officer Jendal reported, his voice shaking. "The human ship is rotating. They are bringing their main weapons to bear on our position. On the main screen, the massive human vessel was slowly turning. Along its hull, weapon ports that had been dark for months were now glowing with energy. The ship moved with surprising grace for something so large, like a predator positioning itself for a kill. "How long until their weapons are locked onto us?" Veltar asked. 30 seconds, sir." Veltar had to make a decision quickly. Every instinct told him to attack first, but the scan results had shown him how hopeless that would be. His 5 cruisers against that monster would be like throwing rocks at a mountain. "Open a channel," he ordered. "All frequencies." "Channel open, sir." "Human vessel. This is Captain Veltar of the Zephyrian Deep Space Fleet. We are explorers seeking peaceful contact with new species. We mean no harm." The response came immediately, and it was not what Veltar expected. Instead of words, the human ship transmitted a detailed scan of the Zephyrian fleet. In seconds, they had analyzed every ship, every weapon, and every defensive system. "Impressive," came a new voice from the human ship. It was female and carried the confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. 5 heavy cruisers, plasma cannons, nuclear warheads, and shields rated for moderate energy absorption. Not bad for explorers. "We carry weapons for protection," Veltar replied carefully. "Of course you do. Everyone does. The question is, what do you protect yourself from?" Before Veltar could answer, the human continued. "We have been monitoring your communications for the past 3 months. We know about your empire. We know about the 17 star systems you have conquered. We know how you operate." The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. The humans had been watching them without being detected. That level of stealth technology was beyond anything in the Zephyrian arsenal. "Let me introduce myself," the human voice continued. "Captain Sarah Chen, commanding the UES Retribution. And you, Captain Veltar, are about to learn why scanning human warships without permission is considered an act of war." "We did not know," Veltar said quickly. "We thought your ship was derelict." "Did you? Our computers logged your scan attempt. Deep structural analysis, weapons assessment, crew manifest access, and historical database intrusion. That is not how you scan a derelict ship. That is how you scan a target." The human was right, and Veltar knew it. They had not simply checked if the ship was dead. They had tried to learn everything about it so they could either claim it as salvage or destroy it if it proved dangerous. "You are correct," Veltar admitted. "We were thorough in our investigation." "Thorough," Captain Chen repeated. "An interesting word. Let me be thorough in return." New displays appeared on the Zephyrian bridge screens. They showed detailed scans of each Zephyrian ship, complete with structural weak points, weapon capabilities, and crew numbers. The humans had learned everything about the Zephyrian fleet in the time it took to have a conversation. "Your flagship has a crew of 412, Chen continued. "Your shields will fail after absorbing approximately 47 gigajoules of energy. Your main reactor has a design flaw that makes it vulnerable to resonance cascades." "Should I continue?" Veltar felt cold fear spreading through his body. The humans had not only scanned his ships but had found weaknesses that even his own engineers did not know about. "Your point is made, Captain Chen." "Is it? Because I am not sure you understand your situation yet." Chen's voice became harder. "You represent a species that conquers weaker civilizations. You came here with warships disguised as exploration vessels. You scanned our ship as if it were your property. In human space, that makes you raiders." "We seek only peaceful contact," Veltar insisted. "Peace," Chen said, and Veltar could hear amusement in her voice. "Let me tell you about human peace, Captain. We have been fighting wars for over 5,000 years. We have fought with sticks and stones, with swords and guns, with nuclear weapons and antimatter bombs. We have fought on our homeworld, in space, on distant planets, and in asteroid fields. Do you know what we learned from all that fighting?" Veltar did not answer. "We learned that peace only exists between equals. The strong do not make peace with the weak, they make demands, and the weak do not make peace with the strong. They surrender." Chen paused. "So tell me, Captain Veltar, are we equals?" Veltar looked at his tactical displays. The human ship had enough firepower to destroy his entire fleet several times. Over. Even if he called for reinforcements, it would take weeks for more Zephyrian ships to arrive. By then, the humans could bring their own reinforcements. We are not equals, he admitted quietly. No, you are not. But here is the interesting part. You powered down your weapons when you hailed us. You maintained safe distance. You responded to our warnings. That tells me your species has some intelligence. What do you want from us? I want you to understand something very important. The 17 species you conquered were not warriors. They were farmers, traders, and builders. They had mining lasers and cargo ships. When you came with warships, they could not fight back. Chen's voice became deadly serious. We are not them. We are not prey. We are the species that other species have nightmares about. We are the ones who turned warfare into an art form. And if you try to add Earth to your collection of conquered worlds, you will not be fighting civilians with industrial equipment. You will be fighting us. The transmission ended, and the bridge fell silent. Outside, the human ship continued its slow rotation, bringing more weapons to bear on the Zephyrian fleet. Sir, Morden whispered, I am detecting multiple new contacts on the long-range sensors. More human ships? Yes, sir. They are moving to surround us. Veltar closed his 4 eyes and tried to think. The humans had been waiting for them. Veltar stared at the sensor readings as more human ships appeared around his fleet. They had been running silent, invisible to Zephyrian sensors until they chose to reveal themselves. The UES Retribution had not been alone. It had been bait. How many ships? He asked quietly. 12 confirmed contacts, sir, Morden reported. All of them are similar in size to the Retribution. We are completely surrounded. Veltar felt his hearts beating faster. 13 human warships against his 5 cruisers. Each human ship outgunned his entire fleet. They could destroy every Zephyrian vessel in minutes. Captain Veltar, came Captain Chen's voice again. I see you have noticed our friends. Allow me to introduce them. The ships around you represent Patrol Group 7 of the Human Defense Force. We are the ones who watch the borders of human space. Patrol Group 7? Kessery whispered. If this is just a patrol group, how large is their main fleet? Chen's voice continued, as if she had heard the question. You are wondering about our fleet strength. That is natural. Most species want to know what they are facing. So let me educate you. New data appeared on the Zephyrian screens. It showed the structure of the Human Defense Force. Patrol groups like the one surrounding them were the smallest unit of organization. Above them were battle groups, fleet groups, and something called fortress commands. The Human Defense Force maintains 417 ships of the line, Chen explained. That does not include our exploration fleets, our merchant marine, or our colonial defense forces. It also does not include our construction ships, which can build new warships faster than most species can count them. Veltar looked at the numbers and felt sick. 400 ships like the Retribution. The entire Zephyrian Empire had only 63 warships, and most of them were smaller than a single human patrol vessel. But numbers are not the most important thing, Chen continued. The important thing is why we built so many ships. Would you like to know why, Captain? Tell me, Veltar said. Because we learned something important during our centuries of war. The universe is a dangerous place. There are species out there that want to take what others have built. Species that see weaker civilizations as resources to be harvested. Species like yours. Chen's voice became harder. So we made a decision. We decided that humanity would never again be the weak one. We would never again be the species that gets conquered. We built ships, we trained warriors, and we prepared for the day when someone would try to add us to their empire. We never intended to threaten humanity, Veltar said. Did you not? Let me show you something. A holographic image appeared above, the Zephyrian bridge. It showed Captain Chen, a small human female with short dark hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. She looked directly at Veltar as she spoke. We have been monitoring your empire for 8 months, she said. We know how you operate. You find species that are weaker than you. You demand their surrender. If they refuse, you destroy their cities. Until they comply, you take their resources, their technology, and their freedom. Chen leaned forward slightly. You have done this 17 times. Each time you faced species that had no real military, farmers and miners who could not fight back. But now you have found something different. What do you want from us? Veltar asked. I want you to make a choice, Chen replied. You can continue on your current path. You can return to your empire and tell them about the rich worlds you found in human space. You can bring your fleets here and try to conquer us. She paused, and her smile was not pleasant. Or you can learn from this encounter. You can go back to your people and tell them that there are some species in this galaxy that are not prey. Some species that fight back. Some species that win. Veltar understood the choice she was offering. Fight or flee. Attack or retreat. Survival or destruction. If we leave now, will you allow us to go? He asked. I will do more than that, Chen said. I will give you some free advice. Your empire has grown strong by conquering the weak. But growth based on conquest always ends the same way. Eventually you meet someone stronger than you are. She gestured toward the ships surrounding the Zephyrian fleet. Today you met us. You are lucky that we believe in giving warnings. Other species you might encounter may not be so generous. What other species? Chen's smile became wider. Oh, Captain, you think humans are the only predators in this galaxy? We are just the ones who happen to find you first. There are others out there. Some of them make us look peaceful. Veltar felt a chill run through his body. If there were species that made humans look peaceful, what horrors existed in the unexplored regions of space? Take your ships and leave, Chen ordered. Return to your empire. Tell them what you learned here. And remember this conversation the next time you think about conquering someone weaker than yourself. We will leave immediately, Veltar promised. Good. But Captain Veltar, there is one more thing you should remember. What is that? Chen's expression became deadly serious. Next time you scan a human ship, remember that we always scan back, and we do not make the same mistake twice. The hologram faded, and the human ships began moving aside to create a clear path back towards Zephyrian space. Veltar did not hesitate. All ships, prepare to jump to hyperspace. Maximum speed back to the border. As the Zephyrian fleet fled, Veltar made a note in his personal log. It would become required reading for every officer in the Zephyrian military. Humans, apex predators, avoid at all costs. Behind them, the human patrol group resumed their watch over the border, waiting for the next species foolish enough to scan their ships without permission.